everyone's Mr. Welch here, and this is another episode of our LPSD Virtual College and Career Fair. Today, it is our pleasure to meet with University of Alaska Fairbanks, or UAF. We have Joel Stone and Kendrick Hautala with us today to discuss the admission process, a little bit changes with the COVID-19, things to look out for, as well as programs that are offered, campus life, and some tips from being from rural Alaska, succeeding at UAF. We also get into a little bit of the sister campus in Dillingham at the Bristol Bay UAF campus site. So listen up, maybe take some notes and see if this is going to be a good fit for you with your college career. All right, here we go.
Yeah, awesome. And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this with us, as we really do enjoy helping and serving all the students and kind of doing everything we can. So I'm going to just flip through this general presentation. There's a lot of information, and I know a lot of it might, kind of throw people off. But if at any point, Tim, you have any questions, or if any of the students, you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to help you out. I think it's super important to always talk about who we are and where we came from. And so for me personally, I've been working in the Office of Admissions for a year now, but originally I'm not even from Alaska. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up there for most of my life, and I ended up deciding I wanted to come up to Alaska for school, where I ended up going to UAF. Back in 2015, I started. And I was studying wildlife biology the entire time I was here. I loved it, and I ended up graduating with a degree in wildlife biology. I spent a short season working for the Fish and Wildlife Service. This was back a lot more hair and a lot less weight, but it was a ton of fun working for the Fish and Wildlife Service. And I got to see some really cool things. This was down on the Kenai Peninsula. I got to spend time at some of the glaciers out there, see a lot of the animals. Sorry, I double flipped. But that being said, the reason I kind of always talk about this is because the path that I took to get to where I am is because of UAF. The professors I made, the friends I made, those relationships that were developed there are what guided me and what got me to where I'm at now, but really helped drive me along the way. And so, just to give a little sense about what UAF is and what we have to offer, we are a pretty small school when you compare us to a lot of other universities. UAF has an 11-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio, which means your classes are going to look like you and 10 other students, which is a really nice class size. As a student myself, I had classes that had 4 students, and it's really great when you get to talk to your professor. Your professor knows who you are. If you're sick, you text your professor and you say, "Hey, I'm not coming in." When I had classes like that, it really does change your experience, making it more than just like this large educational business and like this group of people that want to see you succeed, which all ends up being really great for you. We've been around as a university for a really long time, and because of that, we're super important to the state. We really do try and provide back to the state and what opportunities we have. As well as to different areas around the globe. We have a lot of our sister campuses. The one probably most relevant to y'all is our campus out at Bristol Bay. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities for students to get plugged in, get involved, and kind of do things. When it comes to education, we really are a world-class institution. So we are the leader in Arctic climate change research, as well as we do a lot of research in the Aurora Borealis and looking at how climate change is affecting rural communities, as well as the community of Fairbanks itself. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to learn hands-on, work really closely with students, as well as the faculties, and get that research done as you're doing so. And that's kind of an overview of UAF. We always like to talk about Brittany and the really cool opportunities that she had. She ended up doing our dual enrollment program, so she started taking college courses while she was in high school. She ended up getting one of her certificates and is now down in Arizona studying for nursing school. So she really took advantage of the whole system, and she really got to succeed. I was one of her RAs, and she really loved the community she was part of, and she got to work with a lot of people. And it was a ton of fun for her, and she's been doing really well because of that. But that being said, to kind of give a idea, UAF really is a path for everybody. We have everything from occupational endorsements, which can be small, specialized semester-long programs, to certificate programs, which last up to a year. Our associates programs, like stuff like fire science, is the opportunity for you to potentially get into the trades and work as a firefighter, or work in getting a applied business. There's a lot of those options. But then we also have your traditional 4-year degree programs, from everything from engineering to wildlife biology to English to, Alaska Native Studies, whatever you're interested in studying. We kind of offer those pathways for you. And then obviously all the way up until PhDs if you're excited to go that far. And so it really is a path for everyone. There's an opportunity for everybody that we like to have. And because of that, a lot of people don't necessarily know where to start. You don't know if you start one direction, if you want to go one way, and another for another. But applying to UAF is actually super simple. The first step is just applying. So you head to the website, you pick the application that you're interested in, whether it's the associates or the bachelor's or the certificate. You fill out the whole application, and then it asks for two things. It'll always ask for your SAT and ACT scores. It'll ask for your high school transcripts. Getting your high school transcripts is as simple as reaching out to your school and just requesting that they're sent up. And the ACT and SAT is one I want to touch on because of this whole COVID-19 situation, as there are a lot of students that haven't had the opportunity to take those exams, and they're just not sure if maybe they can't, they think they can't go to college. And at UAF, that's not the case. Because of the whole situation, we're actually waiving that requirement. If you never took it, that's okay. We're entirely, waiving that so that you can come in with just your transcript and get started in school. It's not something that down the line we're considering throwing back at you. So 3 years into your education, you have to take it. We're not considering that. We want to do what we can to make you as successful as we can as a student. And so that's what we're trying to do to kind of offer that to you. Obviously, if you've taken AP courses, students should always send those in because it's potentially free college credit. I think the last calculations we did, when you take AP tests, and I tell this to every student, take your AP test. If you pass your AP test, you can save almost $1,000. It ends up being a lot of money in the long run. And so totally encourage that with students. We have a lot of virtual tours and virtual meetings that you guys can now set up to see what campus is like, see what the residence halls are like, meet with someone like myself or Kendrick so that you can ask any of the questions that you have. And so that's something I always encourage students to do. I encourage students to never stress about picking a major. About 35% of our students are what we call undeclared, so they just don't know what they want to study, but they know that school is the right path for them. And so if that is you guys, don't stress about it. We're going to work with you to kind of enable you to be successful. And so we have a dedicated staff at our academic advising center who works with those students to help find the major that fits them. And so it's something I totally encourage. If you're not sure, but you want to go into education, it's still something you can do. I tell every student I can, ask a lot of questions. The best way of learning is by asking questions. You either ask myself, you can ask Kendrick, you can ask your teachers, you can ask your counselors, you can ask your parents. People will have answers, or they'll find them for you. That is myself and Kendrick's entire job, is to just answer your guys' questions. And so I totally encourage it. Any question, there's no question that is dumb. Ask any question you have. We want to help you guys out. And then obviously you want to pay attention to deadlines, because there's nothing worse than having something done but missing the deadline. And so because of that, it's easy to flip into the second point, which is the important dates to know about. And so the application's already open. The FAFSA is also already open. So if you haven't filled out your FAFSA, you should. If you don't know what the FAFSA is, it's the free application for federal student aid, something you fill out on FAFSA's website, and your counselors at your high school or your parents might be able to help you out with that. But essentially what it is you go onto the government website and you fill out an application, and you give them a bunch of information, whether it be tax documents and some other bits. And then they'll look at your situation and they'll potentially offer you money just to go to school. And it sounds like it almost is a trick that someone's offering you free money, but it is sometimes that great. And so I tell every student there's no cost to it. They should fill it out. because it doesn't take anything other than some of your time to potentially save you a lot of money. So FAFSA is already available, and you should fill that out. The UA scholars, your counselors probably did this the end of your junior year, but if you think you're in that top 10% of your school and you're not too sure, you should always make sure. But you need to make sure you apply to UAF or any of the other UA schools by May 1st to secure that application. We kind of have them tied together that when you apply, you're accepting that scholarship. So you need to make sure you apply. NANIC Pledge is another one of our scholarships that I'll touch on here in a second. But the deadline for that is June 15th. So you got to make sure you apply to UAF before June 15th. If you're a UA scholar, then hopefully you're doing that before May 1st. But those are the deadlines to really keep in mind. And then obviously the FAFSA is due on June 30th if you're qualifying for the Alaskan Performance Scholarship, which is the statewide scholarship that grants funding for students to go to school in Alaska. So whether it's UAF, UAA, UAS, APU, or any other university that you have within Alaska, if you qualify for APS, you need to have your FAFSA done and send to that university by June 30th. And that's the application for the APS. So make sure to do those things. If you don't know, maybe you're a little lost or confused, feel free to reach out to me, Kendrick, or your counselors. Because again, like I said, ask questions will help you out. That is our job. That's what we want to do. We love helping you guys. And so that's a big part of it. So just another touch on NANIC Pledge. I mentioned it. It's new to a lot of students. Some people don't know what it is. Some people do. But it's a merit scholarship for a lot of students. It's offered exclusively at UAF right now. And it ends up being anywhere from a $12,000 to a $20,000 scholarship over the course of your education. The only requirements are that you are applying for a bachelor's degree program and you're taking one class face-to-face. With the whole COVID-19 situation, it's something that we are kind of monitoring. And if you're in a course that should be face-to-face but is now online, we're considering that okay. And that's something that obviously we're trying to work with all the students that are in those situations to make it as successful as we can for you guys. But the kind of at the bottom of this chart, I put this down here because I think it's super important to really consider. I personally came from out of state and I grew up in a pretty low income family, and so money was always super tight for me. But if you're a student who qualifies as a UA scholar and you qualify for APS, if you also came from that kind of low income family and you have the NANIC Pledge, the real number that you pay for college is right around $3 for a whole year of college. Being a super strong student, trying really hard while you're in high school ends up paying out for you when you really look towards college, because the number looks kind of goofy to see that $3, but the reality is that's how much money you're getting in scholarships, which is really great. And so if this is something you're not sure about, this is something you're maybe considering, please let us know. Normally we consider this based on your GPA as well as your test scores, but again, because of the whole COVID-19 situation, we're going to be this semester, we're going to be waiving the SAT and ACT score requirement and kind of working around that with you. So if you feel like you do really well in school, please reach out to us. Please apply so that you can see if you got this. And then we'll kind of go from there and see how much opportunities really open for you. There's also a ton of opportunities for you to get involved with while you're still in high school as you're transitioning to college and kind of in between. So something like RAW has a great example with the Rural Alaska Honors Institute, where you have the opportunity to come to UAF to get involved, start taking classes. You can take anywhere from 8 to 11 credits. It's all paid for. You're there for 6 weeks and you actually get to go to college and see what it's like. It's a really great opportunity. It's one that I have to put a disclaimer on, again, because of the COVID-19 situation. We're looking to still do something like this, but we're just not sure quite yet what it's going to look like for you guys. But if you're interested, please let us know. Please express that interest so that we can get you connected, we can get you involved. And then we have other opportunities like NSAP and RSA or ASRAR and stuff like Advantage at UAF, where you're doing programs like taking college credits while you're in high school. to kind of boost yourself as you move towards that. But that being said, if you have any questions about any of these, please reach out to us. If you just want to know what opportunities you can do to get involved and get started early, again, please just let us know, and we'd love to talk to you about that, whether it be Kendrick and I sitting down with you one-on-one and just kind of chatting about what options you have, or connecting you with the program head so we can see if we can get you in there. And so I think there's 3 more slides that are kind of the academics, and then I'll talk about kind of the fun about UAF. This is URSA. It's our undergraduate research and scholarly activities. This was a driver for me to come to UAF. This is a program that's all about undergraduate research and about funding for undergraduate research. So for a lot of students, the idea of going to school, they have this idea of like, they want to do this. But you have to have funding to do research, and URSA is a great way for you to get that funding, whether it be to do a medical research, analysis on something, or it could be like some of our students that are in. I had a friend who she was studying opera. She ended up going down to Utah to go to see an opera concert there and write a paper about it, and they ended up funding the whole project for her. And so there's a lot of really cool opportunities that come through URSA for you to see unique parts of the world, do really cool things, and kind of have that in your belt as you leave college. And so it's something I encourage students to get participating in, to get involved in it, and really look into. We also have our honors college, which is for, again, those higher achieving students. It's for students with over a 3.6 GPA and a couple different test score requirements. So again, if you haven't taken the test, look at that GPA requirement. But if this is something that you think you qualify for, I recommend applying for it, and I recommend reaching out to us or the honors college so that we can tell you a little bit more. But essentially what it is, it's a group of close-knit cohorted students that are kind of working together to do a little bit more in college. So they take a couple different courses. Rather than taking a regular English class, they'll take an honors English class. And they're a little more challenging, but at the end of the day, what happens is after you've done a research project for the end of the program and you've taken your courses, you end up graduating with honors, which is not only a huge accomplishment, but it looks great. You make some of the dearest friends you'll ever make in your life. You have that close-knit community of cohorted students. You have your extra facilities while you're here, and you kind of done an obstacle that's so challenging and so rewarding. This is also where our Climate Scholars Academy is being hosted, which is a group of students that are focused exclusively on climate change in Alaska and in the Arctic, what that looks like, how it's changing our world, and what we can do to fix that. So if you're interested in something like that, please let us know. We would love to connect you with this program, as it really is about giving back to the community at the end of the day. And then our third problem, we always tell students that they should come to UAF, and this is a great way for us to send you away from UAF. So if you're really interested in seeing some cool places in the world, this is a great way to do so. We have 2 different programs, our National Student Exchange and our International Exchange, which is the opportunity to either go somewhere else in the U.S. or potentially go overseas. This is something that you have to be at UAF for a year to be eligible for it. So you guys wouldn't have to worry too much right now with the COVID-19, how this is going to be affected. But come your sophomore year, you could really go somewhere cool. That's a picture of my friend Mo, who ended up wanting to study in Australia. So he ended up going down there and working with the Great Barrier Reef. He got to spend a lot of time on the beach and see some really cool things. But it's a great opportunity to just see something pretty unique. The 2 really cool bits of this is that it doesn't have to be a bachelor's degree program. You just have to be at UAF for a year. So going into your second year, you can go regardless of what you're studying. And then also sometimes your financial aid scholarships can go with you depending on where you go, which means that, $12,000 in APS and UA Scholars and NANIC Pledge can potentially also go to funding you to go study away, which is really cool to be able to do so for so cheap. But that being said, those are kind of the educational and the academics. But we always like talk about some of the fun and the cool stuff at UAF. So we do have our residence life. They're the ones who run our residence halls on campus. So they do tons of events every year. They do stuff like our karaoke nights, our casino nights. They do dances. They do movie nights. You'll notice a lot of the stuff happens at night because it's college, and college students are up at night. And so you'll have a lot of fun in the community. You'll make some of your best friends. When I got married back in August, of the 12 people in our wedding party, 11 of them I met in the residence halls. They were my best friends. And so you make a really great community being a part of the residence halls. You get connected with some really great people. And at the end of the day, what happens is you stay in these halls, you're able to connect with all that and have those events. For students coming from rural Alaska, they're able to be a part of the McLean House, it's just like residence life. It's not run through the residence life, but it's a separate entity. But it's essentially a collection of houses as well, specifically based around and meant for students coming from rural Alaska. So they'll do stuff like potlucks. My friend Uli always invites me over to come get mucked up with them whenever they have it there. And so there's a lot of really cool opportunities to get connected and be involved with friends and effectively distanced family in the residence halls. And so something I always encourage students to take part in. We have tons of our traditions, whether it be our Starvation Gulch, where we have our massive bonfires and dancing and music, or we do stuff like our Winter Carnival, where we celebrate the Gov Cup, which is where UAA faces UAF in hockey. And then we do things like, dog mushing and ice climbing and just enjoying the cold before it gets too bad. And then Spring Fest is where we kind of celebrate the opposite end, where it's finally not cold anymore. And we get to celebrate stuff in the ways of like dancing and volleyball and barbecues and just having a ton of fun. And so having fun is a big part of UAF. It's not just all about the education. We do want you to enjoy your time there. And this is a great way to do so. There's also stuff like our Nana Rec, who features trips down to Denali to do rafting, to rent equipment. They run our ice climbing roll. They also are the ones who get us free season passes to go skiing every year. So there's lots of stuff to get involved in, lots of stuff to do, and lots of stuff to connect with. If you're interested in sports, we have lots of different sports teams. We have, our rifle, our cross country, our swimming, our volleyball, and our cross country skiing. And then we also have stuff like our men's and women's basketball teams and our hockey team. So it's something that if you're interested in sports, you should get involved in, have a lot of fun, either through supporting the teams or participating in our intramural sports. If you think you might be able to qualify for one of the teams, like if you're a really good basketball player, you can actually fill out a form on the basketball team's website and let them know that you're interested in it, and the coach will reach out to you and kind of see the viability of you making the team. So if this is something you think you'd actually be able to do, I highly recommend it. And then a couple other cooler things I always like to touch on is stuff like the Sikuliak, which is our research vessel that students can sometimes have the opportunity to actually research on. We're one of the only universities in the world that has our own boat. We also have an iceberg breaker on the front of our boat that's not attached in this photo, but those kind of things it's just hard to find anywhere else in the world that has that kind of stuff. And so we always like to kind of show off that kind of stuff. We also have our state-of-the-art facilities. This is our engineering bay. Those are all students working in the engineering bay that's used to test structures against earthquakes. I mentioned that UAF is really old, but this is a great example of how new and up-to-date we are as a university. But that's kind of the end of the general presentation I have. I always throw at the end there, some students are always curious about if I actually went to UAF. I did. That was me on my graduation day. I was a first-generation college student, so no one in my family had ever gone to college before. And I came up here from not knowing anyone in Alaska. I didn't know anyone in Fairbanks. And I ended up graduating. It was one of the best decisions of my life. And so I totally encourage you guys to do something similar if you can. But that being said, Tim, I'm going to take a pause now and ask if you have any questions, because I've just been talking a lot.
Yeah. I think for me, you definitely covered lots of great aspects of it. And, just to hear given the times that we're in right now with the COVID-19 and kind of switching up a little bit of the requirements, I think coming, from our student population, what services are available? I know you talked about like the different housing and for like rural Alaska students, but is there What are some types of services they give? Especially I know with anyone first first semester, the transition's a little bit different, a little bit harder. But with rural Alaska students, what services are available to them to help with that transition?
Yeah, and I'm 100% glad you asked because I forgot to touch on that, and that's something that I think is super important. So here at UAF, we have our a department that we call Rural Student Services, or RSS. You'll hear it referred to a lot. And what they are is they're a group of advisors. They do comprehensive advising, which essentially means that they'll help you with everything you need, whether it be classes or financials or living situation. They'll give you advice on pretty much everything, and it's something that your students would be able to connect with in terms of you would just reach out to them and let them know that you want to talk, that you've been admitted to UAF and you're just not sure what your next steps are. And that's a program that's available to every student that comes from anywhere that is considered rural. It doesn't have to be Alaska. It doesn't have to be, the U.S., anywhere that they can get involved in that. And they can essentially help you figuring out all aspects of college. Because when it comes down to it, sometimes the jump from, wherever you're living at now to Fairbanks can be pretty big, especially whenever you're coming from a really small community. And you're going to a residence hall that has, 100 or 200 students in it. That can be a really big transition. And so they're a department that works exclusively with trying to help make that transition as easy as possible, helping you figure out classes, help connecting you with community. They do stuff like their potlucks every week on Fridays to just to have people together and answer any questions that they might have and help them in the transition process. We also have programs like our student support services, which is for first generation college students or students that come from low income or have documented disabilities. And they also work as comprehensive advisors. So they'll sit down with students, help them figure out classes. If they need help with tutoring, they'll set up a tutoring session for them. So and this applies for RSS as well. They'll also set up a tutoring session. If they need something like they need help writing a scholarship essay, if they need help looking for a job on campus, these are programs that they're designed specifically to do those services and help students along those services and kind of help in all regards. So those are really great opportunities that I think are probably the highest tier of what we offer to students. It'd be a fool to not take advantage of how helpful those opportunities are.
Awesome, thank you. And I think going along with that too, with what's might be the similarities or the difference from going to UAF, in Fairbanks versus like the Bristol Bay campus in Dillingham.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a couple major differences. I would say one of them will obviously be the classes that are offered at UAF, the main campus. We're going to have a lot more diversity in what we can offer, simply because we're bigger and we have that opportunity. That being said, I think the strong aspects of the Bristol Bay campus is the close knit community surrounding it and the opportunity to get help there. If you're not able to come to Fairbanks and you live in Dillingham, you're going to the Bristol Bay campus, it'll be, when you can walk into an office and talk to someone face to face, it does make things a lot easier sometimes. Some of the programs that are offered there are specifically built for the community around there. And so those are things worth looking into. If you love living in Dillingham and that's where you want to stay, it might be worth it to see what programs are there to help give back to that community, because that is a big part of those campuses. But when it comes to UAF's main campus, a lot of the opportunities that we have there are because of the connections we have, the size of us. And so we have a lot of our programs that are available at UAF's main campus, but nowhere else. They're not necessarily available online. If you want to be, a petroleum engineer, a lot of those courses are in person. They're working hands-on in the labs and the facilities. And because of that, they're centered at the main campus. So I would say the biggest difference is that ability to get that personal interaction at the Bristol Bay campus if you're near it, versus the distance potentially obstacle that you might have at UAF. That would be something super strong with the Bristol Bay campus. But that being said, regardless of which campus you decide to go to, we're going to do everything we can to serve any student in every way that we can.
Great. And I think my last question with the UAF Fairbanks campus, how is it, would a student need to get a vehicle to travel around, or for like getting groceries and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I think there's two parts to it. So I think I get that question pretty often. I can tell you everyone, I can tell you honestly, it's easier with a vehicle. Everything's obviously easier with a vehicle. That being said, my first year at college, I did not have one. My wife, she was not my wife while I was in school, but not my now wife, she never had a vehicle throughout college. And she made it just fine. And there's two reasons for that. So you can do it without a vehicle. There's two reasons why. One is, there are the bus systems throughout the city. So you can take a bus to, Walmart or to Fred Meyer's if you need food, or Safeway, or wherever you wanted to go, and always take a bus back, which I did a couple times. And so did my wife. But then the second reason is one of the reasons I loved UAF. It was, when I came to Fairbanks, I was amazed how welcoming and loving and inviting the community was. To the degree that when my mother and I had rented a car to move me into the residence halls. And when I first pulled up, there were 3 people standing outside my car offering to carry all my stuff in. And from that interaction, I made one of the guys, he ended up being my official at my wedding. He's one of my dearest friends. But anytime we needed to get groceries, you could text a friend and they could give you a ride, or you could, walk down the hall to someone and ask them for a ride. Because it's such a close-knit community. The friendships that get built there are so amazing. And because of that, it might sound kind of crazy. It's like, well, I don't have a car, I can't go to the store. Chances are you're probably going to have 10 friends on your first day who are willing to take you to the store. So it's kind of two sides. You don't necessarily need a car, as there are opportunities to get around without it. But that being said, it is such a close-knit community. It's not uncommon for people to be giving everyone rides, and everyone knows each other and gets really involved and connected. And so that's kind of both sides of the coin of that.
Well, thank you very much, Joel and Kendrick. I think that's all the questions that I really had. Before we close, you guys have any final words for students or insights on just college itself that you kind of want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a few. One of them, I know I sound so boxy, and I'll probably sound like your parents, but genuinely ask questions. People, if you need anything, please talk to somebody. Please talk to us, talk to anyone, because when it comes down to it, we just want to see you succeed. We want to help you succeed. And so whether it be you're not sure if you can pay an application fee, you're not sure how to get registered for classes, you're not sure, what it's going to look like after college, ask people so we can help. That's why we're here. And when it comes to college, how to succeed in college, I always tell people, make friends. Friends are how you get through college. You want to study hard and do well in classes, but when the weekend comes around, you want to have your friends around, be able to smile and study together and do your homework last minute together and just enjoy your time together, because that's a big part of college is being willing to make friends and kind of getting connected with the community. It's how I got through. It's how my friends have gotten through. And I imagine Kendrick can say the same thing, that community is so important. And because of that, get connected with the community. If you end up coming here, get connected. But Kendrick, do you have any advice you could give?
I would just say it's okay to be a little bit afraid and to embrace it. And if you are afraid to ask questions, just know that it's not going to kill you to ask somebody something, or it's okay to be in an awkward situation for the first time, whether it's at RSS with a bunch of people you don't know, or something like that. It's a big example of what I can come up with, because I've been there also, with the uneasiness of social interaction. But everything will be all right. And as time goes, you make new friends, and dear ones, just like Joel said. That's about what I got.
Well, I appreciate it, Kendrick and Joel, for this presentation and giving us a little insight on UAF and what it all has to offer, and kind of the updates with the mission process right now. Definitely, give our students this information to let them know, kind of give them a little bit of understanding what they can expect from UAF. And so I appreciate the time that you guys have given us today, and appreciate all that you do for helping out students at your college. And thank you again, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Joel.
So there we have it. UAF has a lot of things to offer, especially for rural Alaska students just like yourself. Things to consider is, look at, you don't need SAT or ACT scores to apply for the fall of 2020. Those dates are very important, and look into, the scholarship. So make sure, we have the June 15th, the NANIC pledge deadline, so you need to apply to UAF. And then you can apply for the NANIC pledge. Also, two important things, your FAFSA, those are all important things you need to get done, especially if you are a UA scholar and looking at the APS scholarship. So thank you for tuning in, and be on the lookout for our upcoming episodes as well. Take care.